Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys checking today's video out and spending a little bit of time with me. Always grateful for that. Today guys, we're going to be giving tips and advice. I'm going to talk a little bit about fishing ditches, and we're going to talk about what a ditch is, why they're good in the winter time of the year and in the early spring. It's one of the top places to catch bass in, and I think a lot of people, they sort of are intimidated by it a little bit, but you don't have to be, because you can fish ditches with just the most basic, 2D sonar electronic, really easy. So we're going to give you guys some tips and advice on how to do that. Also guys, just wanted to give everybody a giant thank you that's been using my Tackle Warehouse links that I put in the description. You guys have been hearing me talk about it. If you guys use those links that I put in the description of my videos, that's a good way to support the channel. So I really appreciate that, guys. Okay guys, ditches, you may or may not have heard of them. Like I said, the Fishing Teacher is sort of for anglers more getting started. But if you're not familiar with a ditch can be a couple different things, depending upon the type of lake. If you have a lake, say like a lowland lake, like Sam Rayburn Lake in Texas, a lot of the flats that you have on the lake there, they've got little bitty creek channels in it. Now these creek channels are not like a large creek. If you guys have driven past a farm field or something, you'll see sometimes in a farm field, you'll see a little ditch that's maybe 10 foot wide or something like that. It may be 5 or 6 foot deep. In a lowland lake, that could be classified as a ditch. They're pretty subtle. But more common, what I want to talk about in this particular video is a ditch that is identified as being the middle of a cove. Now, say for example, if you guys fish a normal man-made lake, like I don't care if it's Lake Hartwell in South Carolina or some of your Tennessee lakes or Ozark lakes like I fish, whatever, man-made impoundments, if you go into a cove, say you go into a big creek arm of the lake and you just pull in any of the larger coves in there, a ditch is considered when you get about halfway back in the cove, the very middle of the cove, the deepest part of the cove is considered a ditch. Now, these areas are great places to catch fish in the wintertime. So what you want to do for the most part is let the depth that you fish be dictated by the water clarity. Ditches are going to be better in a clear water environment. So if you've got water visibility of like, say, less than 3 feet or so, they're not going to be that good in the wintertime. But if you have clear water, like water visibility over 4 foot, which is common, a lot of lakes like, Lake Cumberland, Tennessee, Lake Cherokee, Lake Lanier, Ozark lakes in California, if you got visibility of over 4 feet, these ditches are great places in the wintertime. So what I like to do, let's say for example, I get out there and we've got 4 to 5 foot of visibility. I'll go and I'll run about halfway back in the cove and I'll shut down in the middle of the cove, and usually like anywhere between say 25 to 40 feet of water. And then I may graph down the middle of that cove, and I'm paying attention for any bait fish that I see, paying attention to any brush piles or structure or submerged timber, whatever that may be there. And then once I sort of notice the activity that's in that area, say if I see some bait fish suspended 10 or 15 feet down, or I notice maybe there's some brush on the bottom or whatever, I'll come back around and I'll start targeting that zone. So let's say, for example, if I shut down in 30 foot of water and I start noticing some schools of bait fish that are 10 to 15 feet underwater, I might take a little swim bait and throw it right down the middle of the cove, count it down to 10 or 15 and start reeling it straight in. If I don't see much bait fish suspended, then I'll maybe get a little shallower, like 20, 25 foot deep, and I'll throw right down the middle of the ditch with like a drop shot or a shaky head or a football head jig, and I'll just drag it along the bottom, especially if I notice any type of irregular feature or rough spot on the bottom. Now, once I get back into less than 20 foot of water, that's when I pick up my jerkbait or my A-rig. And what I'll do is I'll fan cast that whole area. I'll throw right down the middle of the cove. I'll throw off to the sides. And a lot of times there'll be some lone fish, like maybe little wolf packs of fish that are just cruising out in there. Sometimes they're on the bottom, and you can pull those fish off the bottom and horizontally for the ones that are roaming out there suspended with that jerk bait. So that's a really good way to set it up like that. So my standard approach is, like I said, I'll shut it down 35 or 40 feet. fan cast around with that little swim bait, maybe throw on the bottom, and then throw a jerk bait as I get farther back in the back there. And I've caught a bunch of good fish doing that, guys. It's really good if you have lakes that have submergent timber, like if you fish a lake like Lake Lanier or Ozark Lakes or something like that. Any place that has underwater timber is exceptional for a deal like that. But it's one of the top structures for the wintertime. I mean, I would, if I had to put the top 3 structures for wintertime fishing, it would be points like main lake and secondary points, ditches like I just talked about, and then maybe bluff banks. Those are really good places to catch them in the winter. So anyway, I hope that explains a little bit, and we'll talk later, guys. See you.